Hi, this is attorney Jamie Miller with another episode of the Miller Law Chronicles. And we put together the Miller Law Chronicles to help people understand the legal process and to simplify the maze by giving people clarity and confidence as they navigate their way through the legal process. A really important message. And today, I'm really excited to talk to Joe Coll. Joe has worked with us here at Miller for a long time. He's a client retention specialist, debt negotiation specialist extraordinaire. He's the person behind the scenes if someone needs debt negotiation help to help get rid of a credit card bill, a medical bill, a private student loan. He's the one that's building the case to help our clients with debt negotiation to get the best deal and the best opportunity possible for our clients. He's a Philadelphia fan. He comes from Philadelphia. He'll talk about his love for the Eagles and the Phillies. Us being from Wisconsin, we'll just listen in. Despite his love for Philadelphia, he'll tell us how great he is at debt negotiation, how we've helped clients and the stories that he has, and how we're helping people get credit scores up to 720. I'm happy to present this podcast to you about debt negotiation as an alternative to bankruptcy, and I think you'll really like this podcast. It's really important to me if you take a minute to follow us on YouTube, if that's where you're watching us, or on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple. It would mean the world to me if you click that follow or subscribe button. It helps us to continue to bring great content to you. If you want to message us with ideas that you have for future podcasts, be happy to hear that too. Thank you again, Miller Law Chronicles. Another episode for you about debt negotiation. Enjoy, my friends. Hi, it's attorney Jamie Miller, and I'm excited to welcome you to another Miller Law Chronicle podcast. Today, we're going to spend some time with Joe Coll. Joe works with me here at Miller as a client retention specialist and debt negotiation specialist extraordinaire. Joe's been with us for a few years now and has really taken the lead in the firm in helping people get out of debt using debt negotiation. And it's become a very specialized area of the practice and something that we're really excited to offer our clients as an alternative to filing for bankruptcy. And this time I'd like to welcome Joe to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today, Joe.
Thanks, Jamie. Pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. And I think you got a Phillies hat on. Is that what
Yes,
that?
I do. Yes.
How are
Defending
they?
National League East champions.
Yes. And how are they doing so far this year?
Well on our way to going back to the World Series.
Yeah, you and I had a nice car ride the other night, listening to a no-hitter, and I think the pitcher was Lorenzen or something.
Yes. Trade deadline pickup.
Yeah, and he got a no-hitter in his second appearance for Philadelphia it was against the Nationals, kind of the not such a great team, but a no-hitter in the Major League Baseball is quite the accomplishment. I wish you luck. Hope that our Milwaukee Brewers get to meet Philadelphia in the National League Championship, which would be remarkably exciting.
See you in a couple of weeks, too.
Yeah, and I'll just knowing your Philadelphia sports loving self that it'll be a miserable time, and if Philadelphia somehow meets the Brewers, because you'll be kind of Goofy Joe in the office driving us all crazy about your love for Philadelphia. But I respect and appreciate that you have such a huge fan. But I really appreciate you joining me today for the podcast. And tell me a little bit about your journey, how, where you've worked before, where you're from, maybe a little bit, and how you ended up here at Miller, and then kind of how we've built this debt negotiation area.
Okay. Well, originally from Philadelphia, obviously, which we've discussed. But my career in the creditor bankruptcy kind of business, it started on the creditor side, more years than I want to say ago, but I started on the creditor side in collections. I worked for a debt collection law firm, which I ended up running, and I was there about 17 years, and which, I got a little burnt out on that, and I wanted to come over to the good guys, as I like to say. And when I got here, I kind of fell into the debt negotiation because I was on the receiving end of it for so many years. So I kind of it brought me a good perspective about what the creditors are thinking, what they need to hear in order to help to bring the balance of the debt down to an agreeable amount for everybody.
Right. And it's, there's two different sides of the coin when people are having financial trouble. It's the creditor side, those that are trying to collect, and then what we call the debtor side, the people that owe the money. And like you said, you were on the creditor side, which can be stressful, but you've now moved to the debtor side, helping people get out of debt. And when you've met with somebody and you've made a determination that debt negotiation is an appropriate path to take, tell me a little bit about what debt negotiation is, what that means, what's it entail?
Well, it entails, the black and white of it is just bringing the debt down to something that's affordable for them to be able to pay off. What I find is that a lot of people, they get debt consolidation and debt negotiation confused sometimes. Debt consolidation is where the creditors you're trying to pay somebody out over time, and it's not always a negotiated lower amount, but it's not a quick process. So debt negotiation is it's a little quicker, and I assess the financial situation. Why, number one, why couldn't they file the bankruptcy, which is a faster way out of it and cleaner? But a lot of times it could be income limits, or maybe they inherited some money while they're in the middle of a bankruptcy, and we need to try to negotiate the debt down. But it's the process really is assessing the financial situation and assessing where the debts are in the collection process. Sometimes people come to us where they're current on everything, and they want to try to negotiate a settlement, and they couldn't file bankruptcy. That's a little easier of a structure. Some of them are in the middle of getting sued. Some of them may be in the middle of getting garnished, and it's different expectations for each level of where they are in the negotiation process. Because really, you don't want to wait too long to get into it, because once a creditor starts paying somebody to collect the debt, if it's at a collection agency, they're losing 15 or 20% right off the top. Goes to a law firm, they may be losing as much as 30% off the top, which it kind of starts to limit the reduction in the debt. But it doesn't mean that we can't, but we always can, but it's just a matter of how low we can get it.
Right. And you had mentioned debt consolidation, and, as someone that, sometimes I have a hard time sleeping and I'm up late at night and I see these, 1-800 debt consolidators on TV. What are they doing differently than what you offer our clients?
Well, what they're offering is longer term, but the problem with debt consolidation is creditors are not required to work with debt consolidation companies. So what happens is they have maybe 8 creditors, and next thing you know, 4 of them are working with the debt consolidation company. The other 4 are suing them and garnishing their wages, and it's not clean like ours. When we get involved, we stress who we are. Bankruptcy is an alternative, and it gets their attention, and they'll usually start working with us, and we get a little more. I feel we get a little more respect by being having the law firm name behind us, and creditors will tend to talk more to us than other places, and we don't. I don't like to stretch out that negotiation for a very long time. There is an option in Wisconsin. I don't know if you ever discussed it in your podcast, but it's called a Chapter 128, and that's true debt consolidation. It runs through the state court system. The key to that is the interest stops running. All right, when people are in these debt, they see they make their payments and nothing ever goes down. The balance never goes down. The Chapter 128 freezes everything, and you start seeing a reduction of that right now. So that's the longer process, but the debt negotiation, we like to get debt negotiations done within 6 months is usually my goal to have it done. And sometimes, you have kind of some options. We can set up a longer term payment plan on a settlement, or we can do a lump sum. The lump sum is where you pay it all at one time when we negotiate a settlement. You usually get a little bigger of a discount when you do that. The name of the game is how much money can you get me? How fast can you get it to me? It's from the creditor side. But on this, we try to get wrapped up in 6 months, but we can do a little longer if that's what's needed.
Right. And what types of debts do you find the most success with as far as being able to get negotiated deals on them?
The primary one that we negotiate, I think, is credit card debt, primarily. Probably the most successful too. Again, that's one of the kinds of debt that you have to catch it in the right at the right time to get to get the most discount for the people. Another one we've had a lot of success in is private student loans. Something that's not dischargeable in bankruptcy, but we have, with the way the federal laws are starting to change relating to that, it's perking up the creditors' ears a little bit, seeing that there might be some possible discharge of bankruptcy with the private student loans. And, in the last 6 to 8 months, I really had a lot of success with the private student loans. Um, and then, medical debt in general. The medical debt industry has changed a lot in the last couple of years with COVID and the credit reporting changes. So we have success across the board. I mean, the ones we can't negotiate would be uh, government debt, fines, tickets, restitutions, federal student loans. We can't negotiate those. But, with everybody else, we get something done with everything. I've run in a lot of different situations now with, since I've been doing this here. Now there's this new thing called small businesses. A lot of times we all know what a payday loan is, but there's a business version of that. And it's, I think it's even more brutal than the private payday loans. But there's a lot of that going on now too. And, we're very successful with getting those done as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing a ton of I think they call them merchant cash advances.
Yeah.
And you have a small business owner that has taken out that loan, just a ridiculous interest rate. They're often garnishing accounts receivable, taking money right out of the account. The interest rates are terrible. There's a personal guarantee, and it can just be a death knell for a small business. And I know a lot of people out there are dealing with that. I did some debt negotiation earlier in my careers, and I always had a hard time negotiating on medical bills. Is that something that's doable now? Are you seeing a change in that area?
Well, I mean, it's been doable. A lot of it depends with medical debt on the insurance situation. If you had insurance, uh, the chances are this we'll get a little bit of a settlement, but insurance picked up a lot of it, and this is a balance that's left over after insurance. So discounts maybe not very high, but then there's also somebody who is uninsured maybe at the time of the accident, and the people we deal with in medicals, they might have had a lapse in coverage, and just man plan, God laughs, but you get in an accident in the 2 days you didn't have insurance, and so there's a bill out there.
Right.
So they were uninsured, and they get a little no insurance discount. But then those are ones that we can jump in and really do more of a half balance kind of settlement thing for. But
Right.
it's doable. And now what I've noticed since COVID, because when I was in collections, we did it for Freighter and Children's and Medical College, so I have a pretty good knowledge about that. They have stopped for right now. They always wanted to stop suing people, but it seems like they have start. They're not doing that as much anymore. And it may be special cases, but they're not now. So I think that's going to help to open up uh, that negotiation a little more because they're not taking money from anybody at this point. So I think they're more open. That's not an avenue for them to collect. So
Right.
now, I see a lot of success for that in the future.
Right. You and I have been helping people in debt for many years. And when people come in and see us, you can tell there's an emotional toll that this debt has on them. Yeah, tell me a little bit about how you deal with that, how you can take someone who's just so stressed out and help them feel better and help them see a future.
Yeah, I have two different kind of takes on that, which I think makes me do a good job. Number one, I spent so many years putting people in that situation, from the collection side and running pressure on them. And I know what they're hearing when they're talking to their creditors. I make sure they understand that I know what they're going through right now and I know what the creditors are putting them through right now. And I can I'll say, are they doing this? And they're like, oh, yes, that's exactly what they're telling me. And that puts them at ease knowing that they have somebody that, you know, understands that side of it. And then as well as, and when from their perspective now, it's, you know, I try to be empathetic, and I am empathetic about the stress that they're under. And one of the first things that I like to do to them is, especially when it's across the table from each other, is I look them in the eye and tell them it's going to be okay. There is a way out of this, and we're going to get you there, and you have the right people on your side, to be able to get you out of this. So, take a deep breath, and we'll take this journey together, and let me take that burden from you. I'll carry it, and we'll get you through it. And people seem to, they respond well to it, and you'll see my reviews on our website. People are very happy with that, and they see that I present that to them well, and I do feel it. I really do. It's not a line of anything. I just believe it. And since I've come over here working for you for years now, I've seen the results of it. I remember the first time, when I started retaining people, and I came to you, and I think they had been on a payment plan for a while, and they filed the case, and I saw that, and I walked into you, and I was like, all right, I get it now. I get it. I can see now what we really do and how it makes people feel. And I just try to carry that on with everything that I do.
Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that because, unless you can maintain that empathy and sympathy for the client and then transfer that into aggressively representing the client, it's hard to do a great job for them because, and that's one thing that you always do, which is remarkable, despite, the hours that you put in and the hard work that you put in and the number of clients that you help, you know, you have the passion for making sure that the result is if you were negotiating for your own family and trying to get the best deal for yourself, if that's what you're doing. And I think that's really the secret sauce as to why, you have so many people that are so satisfied. And I appreciate that. You push it, you just don't take that first offer. You have a number in mind that you feel that you've discussed with the client that you feel is reachable, and you push for that number. And I applaud you for that because it's not always easy to kind of keep up that positive attitude and that desire to, always seek what's best for our clients. So I thank you for that.
I think we were talking about the other night. We were talking about an author that we read. Maybe I don't know if that was you, but it is an author, and he has his main character is a detective, and his name's Harry Bosch, and he solves murders, and his motto is everyone counts or no one counts. Every client should be treated the same and fought with the same passion
Right.
as anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's easier said than done, because it really is. And I appreciate you saying that. Can you think of I don't want to disclose anybody's name, but can you think of a real life story of someone that came into you, had debts, and you really just turned their life around? If you
Yeah,
can.
there was a gentleman, 8-year Iraqi war veteran, and came to us, and he was really under a lot of stress, and uh, we teamed up, and I told him, let me take care of this for you, and I so much appreciated what he did for our country and everything, and we got him taken care of, and he said that in the review on our website, you changed my life, and you got me out of a dark place, and I'm very proud to have been able to do that for him. Again, I'm very pro veteran, and he's just amazing. And another lady, I'll tell you another story, and because she just came back into my life a couple days ago. A little old lady. I'm a sucker for little old ladies. I think everybody around the office knows that because my mother was a little old lady, and that's what it is. But she came to us, God, 2 years ago now, and her husband had passed away, and she got a little out of control. And she had some money in I think 401k or some retirement or pension or something from him, and she wanted to try to protect that as much as possible. She was scared to death, started getting sued, and was scared to death, and worked with her over the course of about 4 months, and got everything settled to well under 50% of what she was owed, or what she owed. And she's cute, and she was just the end result. Maybe probably one of the best that I ever felt out after the outcome of a case. And I got a call from her 2 days ago, and with her daughter, and I thought, man, what did I do? Someone was sued her, and a credit card company sued her, and she's like, and I was like, I know we paid it, and the technology we have here and everything, we're able to keep records of checks and negotiations, and I had a spreadsheet, and I knew exactly when we paid it, I know who we paid, I had a confirmation number, and now we're going to make this little lady a little bit of money after we send our consumer rights attorney after the credit card company because they should not have sued her. It was right there. So it was nice. Sometimes it's nice to see people circle back, or they send a friend over or something like that. And,
Yeah. The referrals mean a lot. That's the ultimate compliment when you've done a good job for someone is when they send someone else or they come back if they need more help. And we see a lot of that. So like the little old lady or the Iraqi vet that you were just talking about, why did they choose debt negotiation over bankruptcy or Chapter 128 or something like that? What was, do you remember maybe what pushed them in that direction?
for the veteran, he he felt, as a veteran would a lot of times, he felt an obligation to pay his creditors. But he it got to the point he couldn't. He had a couple of kids coming on the way, and he's disabled. I won't go into why, but he was disabled, and just felt like he should try to do the right thing. But he also realizes, and the fact of the matter is, it's credit card debt, and the fact of the matter is, they get overcharged. You might have bought $5,000 worth of product, and they're coming after you for $10,000. Now they have a right to make money. Don't get me wrong. Everybody understands that, and he understood it. But he also understood he was being overcharged, and just wanted somebody to be a voice for him. And he had tried it himself. And when you try to do things yourself, the creditors are not going to show you. Maybe respect is the wrong word, but they're not going to hear your voice and they're not going to listen to you because they think, oh, what do you know? You're just taking a shot in the dark. But when you hire a firm like Miller and Miller to work for you, they know that we know. And one of the advantages I have here, especially when it gets to the legal end of it, is I know almost all of the attorneys on the creditor side because we were competitors for years. So that brings a certain amount of respect as well. But anybody, even a credit card company, once an attorney's office gets involved, you know, because the clients will say to me, "Well, they didn't offer me anything." I'm like, "Well, how are you going to get it?" And they said, "Because you're coming to a professional, you have a problem, and you bring it to a professional, and we'll get the result." For the little old lady, she had the money, and her husband had passed, and she had money in a pension, and it was just too much money for her to how it was structured. It was too much assets to be able to file Chapter 7. So, we wanted to protect as much of that as possible.
Right. And I think one of the values of kind of knowing about bankruptcy and debt negotiation, Chapter 128, is that when a client comes in and has a problem, I think you join me in the view that it's really not our job to tell them what to do. I think it's our job to empower them with as much knowledge as they can and then kind of shepherd them to the best decision that they can make to help them make the best decision that's best for them and their family. And there's a lot of people, bankruptcy helps a ton of people and is a great solution for a lot of people. But for others, they may not have enough debt that doesn't make sense to file bankruptcy. They may just say, you know what, let's try debt negotiation first and see what happens. And, I think the results that we're able to get for people and also, getting people back on their feet, getting people up to a 720 credit score, getting rid of their debt, cleaning up their credit report is all valuable things that can be done, whether it's bankruptcy or debt negotiation. Sometimes the end result can be the same. It's just the path, right? And so someone comes in and they have three credit cards. All three total about $30,000. What kind of information do you need from them to be able to assess their case before you go to the creditor to make an offer?
Uh, Financial information. What is your income? How is it structured? That means sometimes people they're on commissions, and it's not a steady income. So how's your income structured? Is the income a protected income, like Social Security? They can't take Social Security money. So how is your income structured? How many children do you have? What Tell me about your day-to-day expenses and what they total up to, and you know everything. A lot of stuff in bankruptcy and debt negotiation and credit rebuilding. Debt to income ratio is a big, it's really a big factor in everything. And how much you got coming in, how much you have going out, and like when I present an offer to a creditor, I have to present financial information like that. I have to tell the story. And I get the information from the client, and I present it in a way where there's as much money coming in as money going out. There's a certain amount of money available, and let's try to fit that into that window. But that's the big part of it, is telling the story for the client and being their voice. Because when they tried to call the creditor, they weren't allowed to have the voice.
Right.
They get pushed around, and personally, I'm not the kind of person that's going to get pushed around, and we shouldn't be pushed around. We are professional as well. Just that's the general information is, why are we here? There's always a story behind, how they got into this situation. Because, if they were the type of person that just didn't care about paying their bills, they really wouldn't be sitting in front of me talking about debt negotiation. They want to, they just can't. And, why can't you? And get the story behind that, and, and present it in that way.
Right.
And just to touch on one thing when you were talking about when we first meet with people, yeah, people will either come in with a preset idea of what bankruptcy is, and oh, I don't want to do it. There's a lot of bugaboos about bankruptcy, but it's really a myth. A lot of it, and I spouted that myth when I was on the creditor side. All I knew about bankruptcy was I wasn't getting paid, and there's all this, these stuff out there about it, and I tell them that. I always tell that to people. So be like, so look, I start out every conversation and every consultation, even if they think they know what they want coming in, I just say, let's get the problems out and let's find a solution. There could be more than one. And then you're right. Let them make their decision as to what they want.
Right. That's very valuable information. And to the creditors, like on credit card debt, are they looking for like financial statements? When you're calling, do they want to know what income is? Do they want to know what assets are? Or are they just, debt's 2 years old and they just want to get it settled? I mean, what are you seeing there? Does it
From the
vary?
creditor side,
Yeah, from
yeah,
what they're looking for.
at the different levels of where it is in the collection process, uh, you've heard of the phrase trust but verify.
Right.
There's in certain in certain stages of collections, yeah, I got to provide bank statements and some other flat out information from, showing their debt. Other times I just need to explain the debt, and, they call it what's the hardship, and, I can just go through that, and I, don't have to, but, as I'm assessing what we're going to do, and it's one of the reasons I always ask the people, where is the debt? What is the situation with it? Because then I will know what I have to, what I have to show and what I don't, what cards in my hand I got to show and what I don't have to show.
Yeah. And then, what are the pros and cons, like of hiring someone to do it versus trying to do it on your own?
The When you're trying to do it on your own, you, you don't really have a cudgel. You can say you have, oh, maybe I'll file bankruptcy, but and they're just not going to listen to it. They just want to know, what's the case number if you're going to file bankruptcy, or they just push them around. They try to bulldoze them, and I did it for years. And you very rarely get a settlement on your own, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I mean, they just don't show the respect, and you need someone like us. But you know what? I will tell people maybe they haven't done that yet. I'll be like, I tell them kind of what the process is, and I know what they're thinking. Oh, maybe I can do that myself, and I welcome the opportunity, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, when they make the decision to come back to us, then they know that they tried and failed. And the other reason is that I really encourage it sometimes is to talk to them and tell them, look, I'm thinking, I've been talking to a bankruptcy attorney. I don't want to go that way. And then they'll try to reach a settlement, and, they get rejected. But the great thing is they come back, hire me, and 3 days later, there I am sending a notice of representation from Miller and Miller showing that, hey, I guess they were serious. And, that actually helps a lot trying to do that. And it solves both of the problems.
Right. And it's all about leverage. Sometimes when a client calls and tries to settle a debt, and maybe they have the income to be able to resolve the debt, or maybe they submitted a financial application for that loan. And so the creditor kind of has a sense from that initial application of what the financial situation is. But if someone's in a relatively decent financial situation, they still can qualify to file a bankruptcy. And so the leverage that you have calling from Miller, a bankruptcy law firm is, listen, Joe creditor, if we don't settle this debt, we're not threatening you, but they kind of know that bankruptcy is a potential, and you've built that leverage. You've built your case before you talk to them. Kind of a final thought, what are you seeing out there as far as people being able to get their credit back after debt negotiation? Is that something that people can do, or are they stuck for a long time?
Oh, absolutely. After bankruptcy, we offer and we pay for a program called the Seven Steps to 720. It's designed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy to give you a 720 credit score within 2 years. And we offer that to our debt negotiation clients as well, uh, because the idea is to clear the credit so you have no debt. And so you're in the same, close to the same position you were in when you filed it, if you filed a Chapter 7. On the credit report, it'll show as settled for less than full balance, but in the end, the debt's still paid, and it'll be reported properly in the credit report. You don't owe the money, so the debt to income ratio goes down, and same idea of rebuilding the credit. It's what a lot of people don't understand about rebuilding credit too is it's not you don't have to go into debt to build your credit score, and a lot of people think that and that's why a lot of people take advantage. More into the bankruptcy thing here, but more of the we tell people this when we sign them up is you got to stay out of the trap. When you once you're debt free, you got to stay out of the trap, and that's because all the creditors are going to try to suck you back into debt, which is another reason we encourage you going to doing the 720 program after debt negotiation is done. So stay away from that, and you can build your credit through this, and do it the proper way with a good solid foundation. And there's no reason it's the same after debt settlement, as long as you're putting all your debt into it. If you're leaving some stuff out, then that's your choice, and that's another advantage of debt negotiation is you can keep. If you want to keep a credit card, you can. We're only dealing with what you want us to deal with. But if you do the clean slate, which is what I always suggest, getting all the debt settled, you'll be able to rebuild your credit the same way as you can after a bankruptcy.
Any final thoughts, or any wisdom in your experience that you want to impart on someone that's dealing with this type of debt at this time?
Don't be scared. There's a solution out there for you. Maybe more than one, and you know don't be ashamed of your debt. There's nothing wrong with it. Abraham Lincoln filed bankruptcy. Okay, and if that happened, or needed debt relief, I mean, he went the bankruptcy route. But don't be scared. There's help out there for you. Um, I went. I used to be the big bad wolf at the door, and now I'm on the other side. And there is help for you. But you have to. If you're in a debt situation, you have to do something. And to come in and spend a half an hour with us doesn't cost you any money. It's going to give you the solution. Going to give you options for solutions, and then it's up to you to take them. But you to the point where everybody knows when it's time to do something. Either you've been making the minimum payments forever and you're just not getting anywhere, and it's just getting either the kids are young and you can't, you're having problems feeding them, or your kids are getting into college and you start like I'm at that phase of my life right now. I'm starting to think about what beach I want to be laying on when I'm 68 years old, and you start thinking about that. And if you keep doing that, if you don't address the situation, you're never going to sit on the beach. And when you're in that credit card debt and you're paying the minimum things, I always refer to, the mouse on the cage, he runs on the wheel, and that piece of cheese dangles in front of the wheel. He never gets to eat the cheese. Let's eat some cheese. Let's get you some cheese to eat. And, you can get there, but it's ultimately that person's decision. But we'll always be here no matter where you are in the process.
You are a wise person, and I'm so grateful to have you on our team, and excited because it doesn't cost anything to have a conversation. to talk about what options so that you can impart your knowledge upon our clients to help them make a decision that works best for them. And whether they want the help or a client wants the help or not, just having that information is very valuable, can be very calming. I really appreciate you, Joe. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. To our listeners, if you can, we greatly appreciate you following us on YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, click that subscribe button. You'll get updates on upcoming podcasts. If you're on Google Podcasts or Spotify or Apple, please follow or subscribe so we can continue to push out some really great content. Joe, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll look forward to helping, more and more clients in this debt negotiation world as the future.
Well, thanks for having me. Hey, next time, can we get some Eagle jerseys in the background?
I did that on even though you're not a huge Packer fan, I made you sit in a location where we see Brett Favre and Bart Starr lurking behind you.
I can't think of two better.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.